Near the shores of old Lake Erie stands our alma mater true. Fredonia State we proudly honor, with its colors white and blue.
Hi, everyone, and welcome to our latest episode of Reflections of Fredonia. My name is Jack Croxton. I am a former professor of psychology here at SUNY Fredonia. When I retired, I thought, what should I do next? And I thought it would be a lot of fun to connect with students who had previously attended Fredonia to find out what they are up to today, talk a little bit about their careers and their undergraduate experiences at the college. We are recording our podcast right here in Fredonia at the Fredonia Radio Systems, Fredonia's student-run radio station.
Hi everyone, my name is Chloe Kowalik. I graduated from my undergrad here at SUNY Fredonia in May 2024, and I am currently, pursuing my master's back here at Fredonia again in clinical mental health counseling.
For today's podcast, we have a very special guest. So why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself by telling us your name and when you graduated from Fredonia.
Hi, my name is Chuck Recktenwalt. I started Fredonia in 1960, graduated in 1970, so I'm very slow.
Well, what did you study while you were at Fredonia?
Well, I started out as a history major, and then in my sophomore year, I was asked to leave because of low grades, and spent a few years working and 4 years in the Air Force, tour in Vietnam. Came back in 1968 as a non-matriculating student and started with economics. And then at the end of that year, I transferred over to elementary education and graduated in 1970 with a degree in elementary education.
Wow, awesome. So how did you kind of end up at Fredonia in the first place? How did it get on your radar?
Well, Fredonia at the time I was there, don't forget this is a long time ago, was a teaching college. And I wanted to go into teaching. I had enjoyed immensely my history courses at high school, particularly some of the history teachers who were fantastic and just made history alive for us, And I thought, this would be kind of cool. And it was a local school. I lived in, Amherst. So between the two of those, that was kind of like an easy choice.
Awesome, yeah.
Well, I'm sure the campus has a very different look to it today than when you started out.
We had 3 buildings. We had is it Baker Hall? The first one, the old one? Yeah.
Okay.
And we had one wing. One wing was girls' dorm. The other wing was boys' dorm. And in the middle was the cafeteria.
Oh, wow.
And then we had the music building. And then you walk down the music building, and there was one building down there. I thought it was Thompson, but you're telling me it was something different?
Right, there's Fenton Hall.
Fenton, that's it.
Oh, it's
Hall.
Fenton. Okay, yeah.
And then the building downtown, Old Main, was a school where we did student teaching, and we took our PE courses down there. So yeah, and the grape arbors were right up at the door. So the kids used to steal grapes out of the grape arbor and put them in the bathtubs, but I can't figure out why.
Oh,
I never got any of the wine.
Yeah, wow.
That's funny.
That's wild. So had you been back to campus much before today?
Not a lot. When I was doing the stint for the FBI, doing the background investigator, I would come down here because a lot of the people were looking for jobs were Fredonia graduates, and part of my investigation duties would go through their documentation for the school and get a copy of their student records. So it's been probably 10, 15 years since I've been here.
Okay. So when looking back, anything kind of stand out about your undergraduate career?
Oh,
Any a memory or two, or a teacher, or anything like that?
All kinds of things. I can remember that working on the school plays that were put on in Old Main, because that's where the auditorium was, working on scenery. I worked up at the College Lodge for Coach Ludwig on weekends, chopping wood and running the ski lift and keeping fires going. I remember the Torchlight Parade. We were in to protest tuition because when I came here, it was tuition free. I paid $100, $300 some odd for room and board, and that was it. So a big difference from today.
Yeah.
That's right.
Yeah. And
That
then
would
this-
that would buy a few books today.
And then the second time
One book.
around, I stayed in a motel in Sheridan my
Oh.
first semester back because there was no room in the campus. And then they asked me to be a dorm advisor for Rotunda House. Now, I don't know if that's still down there or not, but that was a 3-story hotel down right on the main street in Fredonia.
Oh,
Okay,
wow.
interesting.
And I did that, and then enjoyed that because mostly GIs like myself. And went back up to the College Lodge working. And they actually offered me a position up at the College Lodge as a caretaker. But at that time, I was married, still married, and was expecting a baby. And my wife said, no way was she going to be up in the North Country expecting a baby. So
No.
that was it. Yeah.
That's definitely true.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, the lodge is still there. I think they've sold the surrounding property.
Oh, that's too bad.
Yeah, so now that it's just the lodge
Yeah.
that's run by the
We
by
used
the
to go up there.
college.
They used to do when I came, we actually had wore beanies and had and we were like the freshmen, so we got tortured by the upperclassmen, and you had to have demerits and that sort of stuff. And then they had a fellowship night up at the lodge for all the freshman males, and then another night for the freshman females. And we spent the weekend up there, kind of with the upperclassmen, which is kind of fun.
Yeah.
Yeah, they still do use the lodge for like certain events and stuff like that. I know like all the RAs have their what would you call it? Like their banquet at the end of the years there. Some of the clubs do their banquets there. I know they have like certain like the tutors all do their trainings down there. So they do definitely still use the lodge.
Yeah, definitely. In psychology, our psychology club would often have its end of the
Oh, yep.
year banquet actually up at the college lodge.
Yep,
It's a
that's
beautiful,
It is.
beautiful
It's
area.
a beautiful facility. It really is.
Perfect. So I kind of just want you to take us on the journey of what your career has looked like. I know you've kind of jumped around in education and criminal justice. So kind of just tell us a little bit about what your career has looked like.
All right.
Now,
so
just remember, this is about a
15
20
minute, right?
20
Yeah.
minute
Basically, I
podcast.
can't keep a job is what the theme is here. But I started out in college. Went the sophomore year, I was last to leave. I went to work in a dairy that summer. Then I went to work in the fall at Sattlers in Buffalo. I was there for a couple of years unloading trucks. Then I enlisted in the Air Force, and I spent, like I said, 4 years in the Air Force. Had mostly bases in the United States, except one tour at Tan Son Nhut in Vietnam, which was a wonderful experience. Thank you very much. And then I came back and worked with the Boilermakers for 6 months. And then my wife-to-be kept saying, you got to go back to school, you got to go back to school. And I kept saying, no, I don't, because I had a chip on my shoulder. They kicked me out. So why am I coming back here, right? But she was just insistent. I came back, and they were just as nice as they could be. Brought me in as a non-matriculating student, said, take all these courses and see how you do. Well, I made Dean's List because I was living at the motel at the time, and all I did was go to the library and study. So graduated, got a job teaching, went back to Bethlehem Steel for the summer, then started teaching sixth grade at Hamburg School System, Charlotte School, and I did that for 13 years. But teachers didn't make a lot of money, so you had to find other employment. And at the time, if you were pregnant, you didn't have a job. You were fired, which is unfortunate, but that's the time.
Wow.
So my wife, my son was born the year I graduated, June of 1970. So that summer I worked at Bethlehem. Then the next summer I worked as a bank guard. And on the weekends I worked as a bank guard. I did that for a while. And then they transferred me to the NFTA police force, and I was a peace officer at the airport for a number of years while teaching. And then I became a summer customs inspector while still teaching. And then eventually I went full-time customs and did that for 27 years. And then retired and found that I was bored in retirement, as the doctor here was, and went back to the FBI as a contracted special investigator, background investigator, and also as an adjunct professor at Hilbert College in the Criminal Justice Department. So finally, after all of that, I retired.
But it sounds you've been pretty busy in retirement, too.
I have been. Yeah, I do volunteer work with the Boy Scouts of America, Scouting America now. I'm an assistant district commissioner in the Great Falls district, and I'm an assistant scoutmaster for my son's scout troop. So yeah, pretty busy.
That's good. Although, we just met, but that seems about right for you. You seem to like to stay busy and to, be doing things.
I do.
That's good.
So I guess I'm particularly interested in that stage of your career where you were like recruiting people for
For the FBI.
For the FBI?
Right.
What was that all about?
Anybody who is going to come into an FBI building, agents, vendors, other people, have to have a background investigation. and they're all different levels of background investigations. So, of course, an agent or a U.S. attorney or a judge gets the deepest one. And basically what that is you take 15, 20 years of their life and turn it inside out. They get a questionnaire, an 86, it used to be 68 pages, put everything down, where you worked, who you lived, everything. And then I sit down with them and go page by page and say, on such and such a date, you did this, you did that. Okay, we're done. Is everything here correct? If you made a mistake, we can fix it now. Okay, if you got arrested, got a speeding ticket, didn't tell me, this is the time. You tell me now, and we're good to go. Once you sign it, that's the document. They would sign it, and then I would go and verify every single page. So I would go to the schools, the elementary schools, the high schools, the colleges. I would go to the neighborhoods, go to their neighbors. That was the fun part. We walk up to a door of someone who doesn't know you're coming, and you're dressed up like, a Jehovah's Witness. And they get that expression on their face, and they open the door like, oh, God. And I go, hi, I'm from the FBI. And you watch the expression. I loved it. You watched that expression change, and then, you'd say what you're there for, and that the person was applying for a position with the government, and you were doing a background investigation. And 9 times out of 10, everything went well. Once in the 10 years, a few times things went bad. One of the advices I got for students is watch what you put on camera. Okay? When I was a kid and I screwed up, after a year or so, it's forgotten. You screw up now, you own it for the rest of your life. And so one of the things that the Bureau does is they're going to look at all your video communications. So if I've got a kid who says, I never drink, and I'm watching a picture of him doing a bong, you know what? That's a strike right there. So be careful what you do out there. So once all that information was put together, I would write up a report and send it to the case agent. So it was really interesting. I really enjoyed it. But again, I'm a big kid. So, the badge, the gun, and all that sort of lights and siren, all that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
I love that stuff.
Well, I imagine maybe it's a little different today because probably so much is out there on Facebook and Instagram, and people don't realize that's going to be out there.
You've got to be careful, especially with drinking. Just be careful with your drinking, and because you just never know. There's a cell phone everywhere. And if you do something dumb, it's going to be on film. And if it's on film, somebody that you don't want to see it is going to see it. I can guarantee it. So just, a little bit of caution, a little bit of temperance, a little bit of wisdom, be careful what you're doing.
Right. Would you say that was probably your favorite career you had?
I don't know.
I
loved customs.
Yeah?
I was on an enforcement team for 9 years, and we did all kinds of crazy stuff. Stuff that you probably wouldn't get to do today. But when on patrols with the Coast Guard, when helicopters, did some undercover work and some plainclothes work. And some of the stories, and I could tell. Can I tell stories?
Let's hear a story.
One of the stories I love is I'm working at the Peace Bridge one Sunday morning, early Sunday morning, and a car pulls up with an older lady and an older gentleman, both dressed very nicely, like for church. And the gentleman back has a towel over his face, and he's sleeping. So I said to the wife, hi, how are you? What's your citizenship? She said, U.S. I said, can you wake your husband up so he can give me a citizenship? She said, no, I can't do that. I said, ma'am, you don't understand. You need to wake up your husband. She says, no, you don't understand. He's dead.
Oh, my gosh. Wow.
Wow.
Yeah, that was my reaction, too. I like, what? And she says to me, do you know how much an undertaker charges to bring a body across the border? I said, no, ma'am, but I'm sure you do. And she had all the paperwork. Wow. Apparently, an undertaker in Canada, he'd had a heart attack up in Toronto, and apparently an undertaker had filled out all the paperwork for her.
Yeah.
I said, ma'am, you just pull right over there and show those boys and you're on your way. And she was. So, yeah, it was just every day you went to work and you didn't know what was going to happen. It was like a giant game of hide and seek, They'd hide it and I'd seek it. And I just, I love wearing a uniform because you don't have to pick what colors you're going to wear that day.
That's
true.
That's
true.
Don't have to pick what tie you're going to wear that day, It's always going to be blue, so you're always color coordinated. And I enjoyed it. My kids say I enjoyed the juice.
Gee, if I get tired of doing a podcast, that sounds like something I'd like to do.
Oh, it was very interesting. You'd see all different kinds of things. I had a guy come across one time. I asked the guy all the questions. He asked all the answers, and I'm all done. So, okay, you can go. He said, well, don't you want to ask about the gun? I said, what gun? He says, the gun's there on the dash. I put that up so you'd see it first. Guess what? Who didn't see the gun?
Jeez.
So I mean, like I said, you never knew what was going to happen.
Yeah.
It was, we'd have animals imported across the board. They brought a load of lions one time, and I'm working a midnight shift, and they have the lions in the warehouse. Well, the warehouse is like a huge amplifier. So if you've ever heard a male African lion roar in an amplified
Loud, yeah.
environment, it is scarier than heck. So
I
I had
bet.
my gun on the counter the entire time because I kept swearing that lion was right behind me.
Wow.
Another time they sent me out to do a truck of unknown freight. I opened the door, I got hit with a banana. It was a load of chimpanzees.
Wow.
And adult chimpanzees are not cuddly and friendly.
Wow.
So yeah, it was it was always something going on.
I guess so.
Something different every day.
Every day you saw something different. Yeah.
Those are quite some stories.
Yeah.
Oh. So, so I'm not sure how your time at Fredonia helped you to deal with lions and chimpanzees and dead people, but
I think what
but
it was.
can you think of
and
anything?
Yeah, I can. I think the fact that you need to be flexible, you need to be open to change. If you look at my life and my career, I've made lots of changes. I've, switched this, switched that. Life is like a switchyard, and you have to look at all the switches. And you have to kind of determine, where am I going to go? And you've got to be open to opportunities. I mean, things will present themselves that you didn't plan on. So stay open to opportunities, stay fresh, stay kind. That's really important. Stay kind. We can use all the kindness we can get out there. But I
Sure.
think the fact is, don't get focused in so tightly on what you want to do that you miss something else, because there are lots of opportunities out there, and most of the students are going to have more than one career. It's becoming rare when a person gets a job and retires from the job. I mean, look at you. Here you are with
Yeah.
another whole occupation
right.
going on. So
Yeah.
so be prepared for that. So that's my advice.
I think that's really good advice.
I
Like, a
think-
lot of students are so afraid to like switch a major or something like that. And that was my experience. I did one semester as an English major and I was like, that's not for me, not, what I'm interested in. I switched my major and it ended up being what I started doing after I graduated.
Yeah.
So I think that's really good advice. I hear that all the time, that students are just so afraid that, they're not going to graduate in time. And, that's, it always works out. And that's what your advisors are there for. So
Well, life is taking risks.
A-
It's all about
absolutely.
risk taking. You've got to take risks because the rewards are worth it.
I agree.
I agree. Definitely in your case,
Oh, yeah.
you've accumulated a
Oh.
lot of life experiences.
People don't believe it when I tell them all the things I've done, And it's interesting. You look back at decisions you made, and things that happened, and they could have been disaster, but they turned out fine, And sometimes you just have to have perseverance and faith that things are going to work out, and they do.
Absolutely.
Yeah. I also did kind of want to make note of something that you mentioned in your bio. So we saw that your daughter Lisa also graduated from Fredonia as well. So
Nancy, yes.
Oh, Nancy, got you.
She lives in Northern Ireland, where she's a
cool.
college professor at
Oh.
Ulster University.
That's
Wow.
awesome.
Yeah,
Wow.
and she graduated in 96, and she's maintained, and that's so cool, she's maintained friendship with all the girls she went here. And she was just here visiting, and she got to see all the girls that she graduated with and her roommate. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and my grandfather went here, too.
Oh, really?
Yeah,
Wow.
yeah,
So that's
when-
3 generations.
When it was Fredonia Normal School.
Oh,
Oh,
okay.
And that was
yeah,
still a
yeah.
teaching school, but yeah, he got his teaching certificate here. In those days, he didn't get degrees; he got a certificate.
Okay.
Right.
So
Yep.
yeah, so 3 generations. Yeah,
Wow,
That's super
you have a
cool.
lot of connections
Yeah.
to Fredonia.
yeah.
That's wonderful. Well, I think that just about does it for our interview today. Chuck, anything else you feel like adding while you have the microphone?
Yeah, I love microphones. Just be good to yourself. Take some time to relax. College can get to be very tense. It can be very frustrating. Take some time to breathe. That's so important. Take a break now and then. Keep up your studies, because I know what happens when you don't study. But keep up your studies. But most of all, this is probably the best time of your life. Enjoy it. Make memories, because these memories will last you for a lifetime. And stay in tune. That's
Right.
it.
Well, that's great.
It's
and,
perfect.
and then you can have a lot of life experiences that you can talk about on a podcast someday.
Yes, I can.
All right. Thank you so much.
Thank
Chuck,
you so much for having me. I really appreciate it.
for being on our podcast. I am Jack Croxton.
And I'm Chloe Kwolek, and we'll see you in the next podcast. Sing its glory and its praises. Let them ring forever true. Beloved is our alma mater, Fredonia.
estate.